Hello. Hi, I wanted to make this video because I did want to share my experience with my Vbac. If you don't know what that is, that's a vaginal birth after a cesarean. I've been wanting to make this video for a while, but my baby, keeps me busy. So when I started my labor, I was 38 weeks and 6 days pregnant. It was July 1st at 8:30 in the morning and 8:20 in the morning, and I remember a pain waking me up. Hey, buddy. So a sharp pain woke me up around 8:20 in the morning, and at first I just sat there and I went back to sleep. But then at 8:30 I woke up again and I was like, whoa, that's not normal. So I did check my phone and I started tracking my contractions. And at that point, it was at 10 minutes, so 8:20 and then 8:30. And I kept tracking. And then my next contraction was only 9 minutes apart. And the contraction after that was 8 minutes apart. And it just kept going down. By 9:20, I remember waking up my husband. And I was like, this isn't normal. I'm having contractions. So I'm like, I don't know if we should go to the hospital, because at that point they were already 2 minutes apart and they were going down. It was like 1 minute and 40 seconds. And I was like, but I just started having contractions an hour ago. I'm not sure if I'm really in labor. And the first thing I did was to call my mom. And she did tell me like, oh, well, go to the hospital if you're not feeling well. Doesn't matter, maybe it's false labor, but you should still call them. And so I did, and they told me, they're like, you have to call your doctor first. So I called him, and he did tell me, if you're having contractions regularly, you should go to the hospital. But I'm like, it's only been an hour, but they are 1 minute and 40 seconds apart. So he told me, yeah, go to the hospital. They'll check you there. So I did get to the hospital around 10 o'clock, I think, because my parents did have to come and pick up my other son, who was 2 and 5 months at the time. And when I got to the hospital, they were checking my contractions, and they're like, whoa, you weren't lying. They are regularly every 2 minutes, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. They didn't change the whole day. They were 2 minutes apart. And so they did check me. I was 3 centimeters, and she felt me, and she was like, whoa, you're really, really soft. So she thought it could be pretty fast, but it wasn't. I'll get more into it later. So not only were the contractions consistent, they were also really strong. Like, I had to stop and breathe through them. And I did have back labor. So during that time, that car ride to the hospital was like, oh. But yeah, so they did check me, and they're like, okay, well, we're gonna have to monitor you because you are Vbac, you're Vbacking. And at first they were like really questioning. They kept telling me like, are you sure you want to try? They even brought me a form that if it was okay to wheel me off to have a C-section, just in case in an emergency. I didn't want to sign it, but they're like, well, you have to sign it because nobody else will be able to sign it, and we can't just leave you there. We need your consent. But I was like, you know what? I'll just sign it. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have this baby by normal. After that, they put my IV and everything. I kept having regular contractions every 2 minutes. And later on, I still had my water. My water hadn't broken yet. And later on, I was like, okay, I'm just waiting for them to give me the epidural. So I got to a hospital at 10. Around 11:30 or 12, they checked me and I was at a 4 centimeters. And they're like, are you gonna want the epidural? I'm like, yes, I am gonna want it. That doctor either way told me I needed to have an epidural, just in case if in an emergency they wanted to just put in the anesthesia like right away. Even though I heard that doesn't work, like they still have to put me under, but that's what he wanted. I did want the epidural though. Like they were back pains, those hurt. Oh my god, so much. Um, so later on, um, I got the epidural. It was like around 1 o'clock. I'm gonna say 1 or 2 o'clock, and they didn't check me. The last time they checked me, I was a 4 centimeters, and so I had my husband like press my hips together so the contractions wouldn't hurt as much because they hurt, like they were right on my back, like my lower back was killing me. I was on a birth ball. I was squatting. I was just moving side to side, and I got the epidural, so I was sitting down, and they switched nurses, and the nurse that I got afterwards was really really nice. I forgot her name. I think she was Polish, and she was so nice, and she told me, all right, we're gonna get this baby out of you like normally. She said I have some moves. So she put me on my side. She put me on my right side. I had my left side up and my right leg um back. So I was kind of like I was in an awkward position. That's usually how I sleep though, but just a little bit wider. And she's like, we're just gonna put you in this position in about an hour, and then we're gonna go ahead and switch you back. And she was going to call the doctor to see if they were gonna break my water because I was in active labor, and so she was gonna come back and then find out or whatever. So she left me like that, and then when I was in that position, I told my husband, like, check, I felt something. Even though I had the epidural, I couldn't feel anything, any contractions, but I could feel like just like a wave, like a cramp, but it wasn't even like pain. It's just like a light cramp. And I could move my legs. I could move my feet. I could move my legs. I just couldn't feel or move like the upper thigh part or my privates. So, when I told my husband to check, he didn't see anything. But I was like, okay, maybe it was just water that was coming out, or I don't know. I thought it was my water. And the nurse came in an hour later, and she's like, okay, I talked to the doctor. I think we're going to go ahead and break your water when he comes in, because they can't do it. She said that the doctor had to do it. And I was like, okay, can you check me? I thought I felt something. And she checked. She said, oh, I guess the doctor doesn't have to come in anyway. Your water broke. And I was like, okay, great, because I did want everything to go smoothly. I wanted to trust my body. So I was really happy about that. She did check me right away. She said, okay, after this, we're not gonna check you often because your water did break and there's a risk of introducing infection. So I was like, that's okay. She just told me, once you feel like pushy, you have to let me know. And so after that, she changed me to my left side and put my right leg up and my left leg down. So after that, I did I lost my train of thought. And oh yeah, after that she did check me, and I was at a 5, and she was like, okay, well, you're laboring as a first time mom, because my body had never really been into like through labor. And they're like, okay, well, this is gonna take a while. So that was around, I want to say 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It was around 4, actually. It was around 4 o'clock. And I was at 5 centimeters. So she did say, okay, you're going to deliver around 10 o'clock. That was her guess. And after that, about 2 hours later, I was just laboring on my own. She just changed me positions every hour. And around 7 o'clock, I remember feeling like warm, like my legs. And she checked me. She's like, there was a big glob like of blood. And I guess it was the mucus plug or bloody show. I'm not really sure, but it was just blood. And she's like, oh, okay, I guess you're going to deliver before, because this is usually a sign before the baby comes. My water had broken. My contractions were consistent. I wasn't feeling pushy yet, but she did check me. And she was like, okay, well, you're around a 7, almost an 8. And at that time, I was feeling really happy because I didn't want to have a C-section. I was feeling worried because I did have the epidural. I kept telling my husband, I don't know why, but I kept telling my husband to check my incision because I was feeling like bloated, or I don't know, I was just feeling it differently. I didn't want it to like burst or anything. And he's like, it looks fine. Do you feel like different? Because we can just tell them. But he was on my side. He did tell me, you're gonna have this baby normal, like maybe not natural, but we were going to avoid a C-section. And then after that, a little while later, about an hour later, I did start to feel pushy. And they checked me, and you're like, okay, you're a 9. But they said that part of my cervix was still blocking the entrance, or the exit was still blocking, and they couldn't move it. So they tried pushing it. They had me push while they were trying to move it, and they couldn't. So they're like, okay, well, you're at a still at 9. You still can't push fully yet. So they waited for me until I was at 10 centimeters. But I guess it was that blockage, or like a lip that was blocking it, that wouldn't let me move up to a 10 centimeters. And I felt like I had to poop. That's what it feels like. It literally feels that you're gonna poop. So I was I was pressing my cheeks together because I really thought that I was gonna poop. That's just how it feels. Even though I had my contractions, it didn't hurt. I mean, even though I had the epidural, it didn't hurt, but I could feel the pressure. And I told her, I'm like, I feel like I have to poop. And she's like, don't worry, you're not gonna poop. That's just the baby that wants to move down. And I think that was around 10 o'clock at night. And I kept telling her, I have to poop. And it was just like constant. It just wouldn't go away. I would just sit there and I would feel it. And all of a sudden, I just like be relaxed. And then a couple minutes later, I would feel it again. So I was just pressing my cheeks together, and I was like, I can't anymore. I need to push. And they were calling the doctor. The doctor was on his way, and he came, and I was still at a 9. And he's like, all right, we have to get this baby out, because he was getting tachycardic. I think that's what they said, where his heart rate was already in the 200s. And he's like, that's too high. If we don't get him out, he could die. So I also had a fever, and I guess it's because they checked me not regularly, but they did check me about 3 or 4 times after my water broke, and I guess that introduced bacteria, or I'm not sure. But when he got there, it was around 11:30, and thank God I didn't push for long. Like, once he's like, all right, give the hardest push you can give me, and we'll get this baby out. So he did push the lip to the side, and he's like, all right, you're at 10 centimeters, now you can just push. And because they needed to get the baby out right away, they did have to cut me. I know that's usually, they say that's not recommended now, because if they cut you, you could tear to a fourth degree. But he said, we need to get this baby out. We can't let you like tear on your own. We need to get this baby out now. So he did cut me, and I pushed, and I wasn't counting. They did give me an oxygen mask, which I didn't think I needed, but he did give it to me anyway. It was actually like it was annoying me because I couldn't breathe with it. So I kept pushing, and after a few pushes, I think I pushed around 3 times. Even the nurse, she did tell me, she's like, wow, you only pushed 7 times. My son was born at 11:53 at night, July 1st. And I did have a 2nd-degree tear. I didn't poop, which I was so nervous about. I was like, oh my God, I feel like I'm gonna poop. And they're like, don't worry, if you poop, it's fine. Like, you're not gonna be the first person to do it. But it was just the baby and the pressure. And I was so happy that I did have my successful Vbac. My son is 2.5, almost 3 months. And I'm so happy that I did go through my Vbac. Well, that's pretty much it. I do want to make some follow-up videos. I did have gestational diabetes with this pregnancy. He was born 6 pounds, 15 ounces. I was 38 weeks and 6 days. So if you want to subscribe and look for more updates, I did want to share a few videos, how I induced my labor, how I took care of my diet, what they told me, what didn't happen. A few other videos I do have planned. So subscribe if you like this video. And bye.